Ebere wiped the sweat off her forehead as she sat under the old mango tree in their compound, watching her younger siblings chase each other in the dusty yard. Their laughter should have made her smile, but all she felt was a deep, aching worry. There was no food in the house. Their mother, once strong and hard-working, had been bedridden for weeks. Their father had left years ago, leaving them to fend for themselves. Ebere was just 18, but she knew that if she didn't find a way to provide for her family, they would starve. She had tried everything, selling groundnuts by the roadside, fetching water for people, even washing clothes for neighbors. But it was never enough. The landlord was already threatening to throw them out. Ebere sat outside their small, crumbling house, staring at the darkening sky. The scent of dust and the distant chatter of neighbors filled the air. Her stomach growled, but she ignored it. It wasn't just her. Her younger siblings had gone to bed hungry again. Their mother lay inside, too weak to move. The weight of responsibility pressed on Ebere's shoulders like a heavy stone. For days, she had struggled to find a solution. She had begged for work at the market, but traders either turned her away or offered pay too small to make a difference. The landlord had already come twice that week, warning that if they didn't pay, he would throw them out. It was on one of these hopeless evenings that Amaka came again, her face bright with excitement. "Ebere, you can't keep suffering like this," Amaka said, sitting beside her. "There's an easier way to make money. Real money." Ebere sighed. "Amaka, I told you I don't want to do anything bad." "Bad?" Amaka scoffed. "What is bad about making money? Do you think those big women you see in the city work hard? No, they know how to use what they have to get what they want. Look at me, Ebere. Do I look like I'm suffering?" Ebere glanced at Amaka's new sandals, her gold earrings, and the fresh scent of perfume clinging to her skin. She looked different, confident, carefree. It was tempting. But Ebere shook her head. "I can't. I have my siblings to think about." "And that's exactly why you should do this," Amaka pressed. "Do you want them to starve? Do you want your mother to die in that bed? This is not about you, Ebere. It's about survival." Ebere bit her lip. Amaka made it sound so simple, but deep down, something about it felt wrong. The next day, Amaka returned, this time with a plastic bag filled with food, rice, beans, even a loaf of bread. Ebere's eyes widened. "Where did you get all this?" she asked. Amaka smiled. "Money, my dear, easy money. And you can have this kind of life too. No more suffering, no more crying at night because you don't know where the next meal will come from." Ebere hesitated. That night, as she watched her siblings eat happily for the first time in weeks, a deep fear crept into her heart. How long could she keep refusing when the alternative was watching her family suffer? For the next few days, Amaka continued to persuade her. She painted pictures of a better life, of nice clothes, delicious food, and never having to worry about money again. "You don't even have to do anything crazy," Amaka said one evening. "Just come with me, see for yourself. If you don't like it, you can walk away." Ebere wanted to refuse again, but as she looked at her mother's frail body and her siblings' innocent faces, something inside her wavered. Maybe, just maybe, Amaka was right. And so, against the little voice screaming inside her, she agreed. That night, Ebere took her first step into a world she never imagined, one that would change her life forever. That night, Ebere followed Amaka to a nightclub in the city. The flashing neon lights, the loud music, and the smell of expensive perfume filled her senses. It was a different world, one where girls wore tight dresses and laughed loudly at men's jokes, where money flowed like water. A man much older than her bought her a drink, his eyes lingering on her in a way that made her skin crawl. Then he smiled and slipped crisp naira notes into her palm. For weeks, Ebere lived in this world of fast money and false smiles. She sent money home, bought food, and even settled part of their rent. Her mother, too sick to question where the money was coming from, simply thanked God for his provision. But deep inside, Ebere felt empty. She hated how men looked at her, how they touched her without care. She hated how she had to pretend to be happy when all she wanted to do was cry. She told herself it was temporary, that once she saved enough, she would stop. But each time she tried to walk away, the weight of her family's needs dragged her back in. If you are enjoying my story, please like and subscribe to my channels to enjoy more stories on Tales by MSK. So one day, Ebere watched as her mother slowly chewed the spoonful of rice, her weak hands trembling slightly. It had been weeks since Mama had eaten a full meal without pausing to cough or clutch her stomach in pain. But now, thanks to the money Ebere brought home, there was always food on the table. Her younger siblings, unaware of the struggles that came with survival, ate happily, chatting about school. Ebere smiled at them, but inside her heart was restless. That evening, as she sat outside, fanning herself against the heat, her mother called her into the room. "Ebere, come and sit down," Mama said gently. Ebere obeyed, sitting on the small stool beside the bed. "My daughter," Mama began, her eyes searching Ebere's face. "You have been bringing money home, plenty of it. Food is on the table, our rent is paid, and even the landlord has stopped threatening us. I have been praying for God's blessings, but tell me the truth. Where is this money coming from?" Ebere froze. She had known this day would come. She had prepared answers in her head, but now, sitting under her mother's steady gaze, the words stuck in her throat. "Mama, I found work," she said finally, forcing a smile. "A cleaning job in the city. The pay is good." Her mother's eyes remained on her, unreadable. "Cleaning job? Yes, Mama," Ebere lied. "I clean big offices and they pay me well." Mama sighed, leaning back on the pillow. "My daughter, you are young, beautiful, and innocent. I know how this world works. A girl like you, do they pay such money just to clean floors?" Ebere's fingers tightened around the edge of her wrapper. "Mama, why are you asking me this?" she whispered. "Because I am your mother," she replied softly, "and because I see the way you avoid my eyes. I see the way you come home late, tired and restless. Ebere, I will not judge you, but tell me the truth. Where are you getting this money?" A lump formed in Ebere's throat. If she told Mama the truth, the disappointment in her eyes would break her. But if she lied, she looked down, swallowing the guilt. "Mama, please just trust me. I am working hard. That is all that matters." For a long time, Mama was silent. Then she reached for Ebere's hand, squeezing it weakly. "I trust you, my child. But remember, no matter how sweet a road looks, if it is the wrong path, it will still lead to destruction." Ebere forced a smile, but her mother's words clung to her heart like a warning she wasn't ready to hear. Then one night, everything changed. A rich businessman had asked for her specifically. He was older, powerful, and something about him unsettled her, but he offered double the usual payment. So she followed him to a hotel. The moment she stepped into the room, she knew she had made a mistake. The man locked the door and turned to her with a cold smile. "You're not leaving until I say so," he said. "Okay," Ebere's heart pounded. She tried to reason with him, but he wasn't listening. When he grabbed her wrist, she panicked. She kicked, screamed, and fought with everything she had. In the struggle, she managed to break free and ran barefoot through the dark streets, gasping for breath. When she reached home, she collapsed at the doorstep, her body shaking. She looked inside and saw her mother sleeping peacefully, her siblings curled up together. A deep shame washed over her. The money had been good, but was it worth losing herself? The next morning, she gathered all the money she had left and went to the market. She bought beans, palm oil, and firewood. If she had to wake up before dawn and sell akara by the roadside, so be it. Her hands might get burned by the hot oil. Her feet might ache from standing all day, but at least she would keep her dignity. At least she would be free. One evening, as she packed up her stall, Amaka walked by, her expensive handbag swinging by her side. "Ebere, look at you," Amaka said, laughing. "Sweating over akara? You can still come back, you know." Ebere smiled, shaking her head. "No, Amaka, I finally see clearly. I was looking for money, but I almost lost myself. This is my new path now." Amaka rolled her eyes and walked away, but Ebere didn't care. She turned back to her small stall, breathing in the warm scent of fried akara. It wasn't much, but it was honest. And for the first time in a long time, she felt at peace. Months had passed since Ebere walked away from the life Amaka had introduced her to. She had started a small akara business by the roadside, waking up before dawn to prepare her batter and set up her stall. It wasn't easy, but it was honest, and it brought her peace. One evening as she was packing up her stall, she heard someone call her name. The voice was weak, almost unrecognizable. She turned and froze. It was Amaka. But this was not the same confident, radiant Amaka who once walked the streets in fine clothes and gold earrings. This Amaka was thin, her skin dull, her eyes sunken with exhaustion. The makeup she once used to highlight her beauty now only emphasized the sharpness of her hollow cheeks. "Ebere," Amaka whispered, her lips trembling. Ebere rushed to her side. "Amaka, what happened to you?" Amaka gave a weak smile, but there was no joy in it. "Life happened," she murmured. They sat on a nearby bench, and Amaka began to talk. After Ebere left, Amaka had stayed in the business, moving with bigger clients, chasing after more money. The lifestyle that once seemed glamorous became dangerous. The men grew crueler, and the risk became greater. She had been betrayed by people she trusted, abandoned when she needed help the most. Then one night, she fell sick. It started with weakness, then fever, then weight loss that refused to stop. The men who once sought her out now avoided her. Even the other girls kept their distance. She went to the hospital, and the news shattered her. "I have HIV, Ebere," Amaka whispered, her voice breaking. "I don't even know when or how. Maybe from one of them. Maybe from a careless mistake. But now I have nothing. No money, no friends, no future." Ebere's heart clenched. Tears filled her eyes as she held Amaka's trembling hands. "You are not alone, Amaka," she said firmly. "Come home with me." Amaka looked at her with disbelief. "After everything? After what I did to you?" "You are still my friend," Ebere said. "You helped me once. Let me help you now." That night, Ebere took Amaka home. She spoke to her mother, who welcomed Amaka with open arms. They nursed her, helped her get treatment, and for the first time in years, Amaka felt something she had lost a long time ago: hope. But the damage had already been done. A few months later, Amaka's health worsened. Her body grew weaker, and soon, even standing became difficult. Ebere stayed by her side, refusing to leave her alone. One quiet morning as the sun rose and the world slowly awakened, Amaka took her last breath. Ebere wept for her friend, for the girl who had once been full of life, for the choices they had both made. But she also knew that Amaka had found peace in the end. Standing by her grave, Ebere made a silent promise: to never let another girl walk the same path without knowing the cost. And with that, she turned and walked away, ready to face life with courage, no matter how difficult the road ahead would be.